Good morning, Sal.
Good morning, guys.
Sean McDermott there says, we'll figure it out. Well, I mean, to this point, they have not figured out how to stop an Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes passing game. It might have been their worst attempt to do it. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a Tyreek Hill version. Last year, it's about linebacker injuries. This year, Benford and Rapp, no doubt, a part of it. But Patrick Mahomes has all the answers to Sean McDermott defenses to this point, it would seem.
No doubt, especially in the first half. They just really struggled to get going and figure anything out. I thought they made some nice, adjustments or whatever they did at halftime to slow down the Chiefs a little bit, but they were already, pretty much in a hole and let the Chiefs kind of dictate and control the game up to that point. The first 3 drives for the Chiefs, touchdown, fumble after a nice drive, touchdown. I mean, after not forcing the Ravens to punt last week, they don't force the Chiefs to punt in the whole first half. They scored 3 touchdowns on 4 drives, essentially. There was a kneel down at the end of the half. And you're right. You just look at the first half, 90 yards, 35, 59, 34. They just could not get them off the field. I mean, I think the Chiefs did not face a third down until at least the second quarter. It might have been even the fourth drive.
Yep.
I mean, obviously there were circumstances, too, that I'm sure led to that. Like you said, you lose Benford early. You don't have Taylor Rapp. I didn't think Cole Bishop, was a problem necessarily. Elam became one, I think, at times last night. Mm-hmm. But, they didn't have any answers.
How dejected, of course they would be, Sal, after this game, not only because the season is over, but just, I don't know, is it a bewilderment of this is the same team that keeps getting in their way? Like, how much of yesterday after the game for the Bills and for Allen and for McDermott was just, it's the same team again that you can't get over?
Yeah, I think that's got to be part of it. I mean, we talked in the locker room about it. We asked players about it, like how much is it that it's this team? And I think you'd get different answers. Like some say, yeah, obviously, it's you see that it's frustrating. You can't beat them. Not that I got that specific answer, but I remember, some people were more on that, while others were, hey, it doesn't matter who it is. You get to this point and it's disappointing no matter who the loss is against. You heard Sean McDermott there in that clip say they're a good team. They've been to 7 straight AFC titles and have 2 straight Super Bowls. Josh Allen said to be the champs, you got to beat the champs. And, that's he was particularly dejected. I mean, he could hardly talk at the podium, to be quite honest with you. But I do think that's got to be, part of it here. There's no doubt. It has to be. You get to this point and there's that team again that you have beaten. You have beaten them 4 times in the regular season, but obviously you haven't done it in the playoffs. And it just keeps happening over and over again. And at some point, right, bewilderment, throw your arms up. What are you supposed to do? You obviously have to play different, but they've lost in different kinds of ways every single time.
Sal Capaccio joining us here as we wrap up the Bills and Chiefs. Sal, let's go through the game and how things went wrong, what went right, what went wrong. You've got arrow up, arrow down to get to. We got the injury report to get to as well. James Cook was very good in this game. And they were slow to get him the ball, and then he doesn't touch the ball on the final drive either. Did you find it a bit puzzling that Cook was so underused despite having so much success?
I did in the beginning of the game. I didn't know why, he was being not as used early in the game. I guess for whatever reason, to open up the game with, Josh Allen on the run, and then a pass, no James Cook, you go 3 and out. I really thought they could run against this team. It took until really the second half. James Cook had 4 carries the entire first half. I didn't know why it took so long to get to him. We haven't heard from Joe Brady. He doesn't speak after games. And then on the final drive, I think I don't think he was on the play. I don't think he was on the field on the fourth quarter, on the 4th down, correct?
I think he was only on the field for the 3rd down play. I think all the others were either Ty Johnson, and maybe it was just Ty Johnson.
Let me go back to those plays here, and I'm reading. So Johnson has the run. They had success. I guess they wanted to run that toss sweep, and that's Ty Johnson's play a lot of times, right? So, okay, you go with that. And then it's scramble, pass, pass, pass. So my guess is pass protection, right, maybe that's why James Cook isn't out there. But at the same time, I mean, he's been a guy that you could check it down to. There's plenty of time on the clock, so sure. I mean, I think there's definitely room there for, wondering why that was the case.
Sal Capaccio with us on the Western Hotline. So how did you feel about Allen's game overall? He definitely got away with a lot. I mean, there were the first drive, he's throwing the ball right to defenders and it hits the ground. He fumbled it a couple of times and was able to corral it. And he still gets there, right? Like he throw the touchdown to Hollins is incredible. Like he still made some really nice throws and the stats look good. And even the final play, like how far would you go to say Allen looked a little off in this game?
Yeah, I think he did early on, especially. I think he settled in as the game went on, but early on, first two plays, like, okay, what are you looking at? What do you see there? It's a loud environment. I think it takes, when you want to go to a check, takes a little bit longer, a little tougher sometimes. I think that might have been the case on the final play as well, talking about that. But yeah, his game wasn't great. It wasn't. It wasn't terrible. There's no doubt about that. 64%, 65% passing. You'd like to see that maybe a little bit higher, but running wise, I thought that was maybe the big difference in this game, where Allen has been so good at running the ball against the Chiefs, even in the playoffs. But in this game, he was not. I mean, they did a great job stopping it, and I think maybe the story of this game for me was the fourth down sneaks and not being able to get them. I mean, obviously not. Maybe there's a lot of stories, but this was a huge, huge point. The Bills just could not run their best play, what they called their best play when they were out in L.A., and they had the situation at the end of the game and didn't score. And Sean McDermott and Joe Brady both said that's their best play in that situation. Well, they put it at the 1 yard line, the 2-point conversion, they can't get in, and they have a 3rd and 1, they can't get it. They have a 4th and 1, they can't get it. And that, to me, I think the 4th and 1 was the play of the game that ultimately seals the fate. Not necessarily the play at the end, of course. You want Dalton Kincaid, we can talk about, to come up with it, and you don't know what happens. I think if Josh gets that 4th and 1, you can kind of control the game the rest of the way. And if they score a touchdown, you can go up by 8. And if you at least kick a field goal, they have to score a touchdown on you. But 1 yard, they couldn't get 1 yard.
Yeah.
To me, like, that was a really big storyline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sal, it's so odd because they had the drive where Cook ran it so well, and the offensive line, like it felt like they were getting into their rhythm, getting into their game script, and they were dominating in that spot. And then so many short yardage situations where they got blown up.
Yeah, and I don't know. We asked a lot of the guys about it, linemen, Josh, and they all just said, hey, look, they had a good plan. They have a lot of big guys. They put big guys on the field for that, and they were going low, grabbing at legs, doing what they could to make sure that they just got them as quickly as possible. But, man, they've been so successful on it all year. It was early on when I think they failed on the 2-point conversion, because that was maybe the second one where they'd failed, if I remember right. And Chris even said on the broadcast, like, I don't know if you can run that anymore today. Like, they know how to stop it.
Yeah.
And, Josh tried to go to the left on one of them. Maybe it was that play. Tried to go he went over the top the one time where he got it because they just couldn't do the tush push. It's been such a successful play for them. But, yeah, they were not good on short yardage all night long, and I think that was a really big component of, why the game ended up where it did.
Sal, Dalton Kincaid's drop on that 4th down, it ends up being like the Bills' last gasp, really. Yeah. And, the play gets blown up, and Allen makes a heroic kind of throw where, if you look, Kincaid definitely has space. He puts as much on it as he can, and Kincaid doesn't come up with it, which, unfortunately, it's a bit of a theme of the year, especially for those two. For whatever reason, I mean, maybe it's more Kincaid drops than not, but those two have not been same page. They've not been able to establish a consistent connection, and it's something that I think plagued them throughout the year. It happened in the start of the second half last week against Baltimore. And here's another spot where, your first-round pick tight end, best pass catcher in the draft, finger quotes, just, I don't know, Sal, he leaves a lot to be desired for what they drafted him for.
Yeah, I think a lot of us were waiting this year for okay, here we go. There's the bust-out year. You see when you get a first-round tight end and how a lot of these teams are using these really great young tight ends, and George Kittle and Brock Bowers this year and Sam Laporta, and we don't see Dalton Kincaid used like that. The Bills use Dalton Kincaid like just one of the everybody eats guys, right? Which is fine to have that mantra. But we haven't seen him really be a big part of the offense like a lot of these other guys are. And when it has been his turn to make plays, they just haven't been there enough this year. Dalton's going to get a lot of grief and flack and criticism for this play, and no doubt. I mean, he deserves it. He should have come up with the catch, and he admitted that at the end of the game. He took accountability in the locker room and said that he needed to come up with that catch. It was not the easiest catch, but it was one where you got to make in that situation. More than anything, that play was kind of busted. Josh, just as you said, heaved it. That play, Connor McGovern said to me that they slid the protection. They slid the protection wrong. Maybe he didn't say they slid it wrong, but they didn't have it going the right way, because what Josh said was the Chiefs, and give the Chiefs a lot of credit here, and Steve Spagnuolo is just amazing at what he does, and he proved it again on that play. Josh said that on his first cadence, he didn't see that they were going to do that. So, he gets to the second cadence. So what they do is they do something to kind of think, to have you show what you're going to do, and then you don't snap it so he can get a picture of it. Well, he does that, so he says, all right, this is what they have going on. Then he gets to it again and snap the ball, and now they do something completely different that they didn't expect. They don't have protection sliding to where they're supposed to, so now he's hurried up immediately. And if you watch the All-22 view, I guess, I know people posted it, it looks like Shakir is probably open, but Josh starts moving right immediately, and it's like there's no way he can get back to him. He's not going to see Shakir there, but to be honest with you, if the play develops and if Josh stands there just for maybe a half a second longer, he probably has Shakir open in the flat. As it is, he rolls out, and he has to heave it up. There's Dalton Kincaid. From my vantage point, that was coming kind of right at me. From my vantage point, I think Dalton was just kind of trying to make himself available, and then he kind of sees the ball coming. It wasn't like he was the primary target or anything. He sees the ball coming his way, so he has to make a body adjustment. He comes back, and then it hits him in the arms, obviously, and it's one he should catch.
What did you think of the other two controversial plays in the game, Sal? The Worthy catch that got reviewed and was held up, the 4th and 1. McDermott, he often doesn't sound like he won't go in on officials, and he didn't quite do that in post-game, I thought, Sal, but I thought he was a little more candid than usual about that should have been a first down. That's a massive play in the game. He gave up the soundbite, which I think maybe was deserved in that spot, though, because I thought that was definitely a first down.
I thought the referee on the Chiefs side marked it a first down.
Yeah.
And I can't tell. I haven't gone back and watched it. And then they marked it short. And then obviously on the review, I think both plays are one of those where whatever they called in the field, they were going to keep, right? I think you could certainly make an argument that you could see in the replay, a case to overturn them. But we know the league just doesn't do that when it's that close, right? They're going to stick with what they called in the field. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. When Josh turned his body, that kind of forced the football to not extend forward. And I think that's kind of what ultimately did it for the review on that play. Yeah, it's tough. You could certainly say that it should have been a first down, and I don't disagree with that. Unfortunately, they called it on the field not, and I just don't think they're going to overturn that. As far as Worthy, go ahead.
I was just going to say, on the follow-up on that, do you know what the protocol is, or even is there one? And I've noticed this in the past where two line judges coming from opposite ends of the field will be off by half a yard,
right.
A yard. This is not the first time that's ever happened. What is the protocol as to who gets to mark the ball if they're different, or is it just whoever gets there first? Because in that one, it looked like they were definitely different by a yard, and the referee that had it shorter was the first one to touch the football, so he's the one, I guess, that gets to mark it?
Maybe. I'm not sure. It's a good question. I can try and find out how they exactly do that. So I've seen it happen many times, too. Which guy is the guy? Is it the home sideline guy, right? Is it the waist? I don't know. I don't exactly know. So it's a good question because it was certainly close. Look, to me, you got to get further than that on that play. And certainly there's an argument to say, okay, but they still blew it. But you still got to get further than that. On the Worthy play, I've always hated the changing of the rule that says the ball's allowed to hit the ground. And this goes back years, right? They did this years ago. The Bert Emanuel thing in the late 90s is really what started this, where if you have control and it touches the ground, it's still a catch. I've hated that. Like, growing up, to me, the ball touches the ground, it's incomplete, period. Like, you can't touch the ground. You got to keep it off the ground. That's a catch, right? That's not a catch if it touches the ground. So, according to the rules today, again, I think that it touched the ground. The question is, did the ground aid in the actual catching of the ball? There's certainly an argument to be made there, but I don't know if you could overturn it because the ball never moved, which means that they're saying he secured it against, I guess, like his chest, I guess, as he went to the ground and did that. The thing about that play, too, that was right like 20 feet from me, and I thought Cole Bishop intercepted it, and he should have. I mean, Cole Bishop had it in his arms. I had no idea. Like, when they came down, I was, like, surprised. I thought Cole Bishop had it, and then all of a sudden I said, oh, my God, Xavier Worthy's got it. So, like, initially the replay guys, I thought they were reviewing to see if Cole Bishop was down with the ball. That's not what they were reviewing, obviously, but that's how much I thought that Cole Bishop had it and should have been able to intercept that.
That's another area where I was kind of confused on, like, how does that work in this game? Because when I saw the replay, Sal, I thought Bishop was the one with the control when the ball hits the ground, and then after they roll over, Worthy ends up pulling it away from him. So, like, again, that's where I'm if one guy has control when the ball hits the ground, but then the other guy comes up with it, but Worthy didn't have. It's just like that one was another one where it's just like you're asking about rules more than like what actually happened on the play.
I know, and I've seen a lot of the stuff today, and how calls going the Chiefs' way, and I respect all that. They didn't make enough plays in this game for me to say that to go there enough. I mean, there's certainly, obviously, like I said, arguments to say that there were a couple of really controversial calls that didn't go the Bills' way, but I think that overall they just didn't play well enough to win this game, and it shouldn't have come down to that.
Sal Capaccio on the Western Hotline. Sal, how about the Barnes Firm injury report? Injured, call 1-800-8-million. Christian Benford, of course, scary moment for him, for I think everybody watching as he left the field. We'll get to Benford and any other names you want to mention on the injury report.
He's the only one, as far as I can remember. I don't think I had any other injury updates for anybody on the Bills or even the Chiefs side, for that matter. And it was very scary. Obviously, we all saw he was having to be held up on the field. Looked like DeMar Hamlin actually was coming over to make the tackle, and he's the one that hit him. You guys can tell me on the broadcast if that is the case. I think that's what happened. I didn't get a chance to see the exact replay.
It was. Yep.
And then, once that happened, that's early in the game, and you see Kyrie Elam come on the field. There's a big drop off. There really just is between Christian Benford, who a lot of people thought was at least a Pro Bowl level player, if not All Pro. I think he was one of the alternates, but you get the point. To Kyrie Elam, who just hasn't hit yet in the NFL, and hasn't been able to be the guy that they thought he would be, and they attacked him a few times, no doubt about that. That was a critical moment in the game for the Bills to lose Christian Benford.
Sal Capaccio on the Western Hotline. Get a phone. You know what? We're up against it. So, Sal, we'll get a final thought here, rather. And I know that you're coming up on the Extra Point show as well to talk about this game. Big picture, this game, some stats, we're seeing them all. The Bills have the most wins in a 6-year span without a Super Bowl appearance. Allen now has the most playoff wins without a Super Bowl appearance. You wonder how this group will come back next year, how he'll come back, what changes will be made, what they feel will need to be made. This is year one of the transition. So where from here?
I don't know. You just keep going, right? That's the theme in the locker room. And you just, lots of guys talking about, well, you got to start over. That's the big thing for me. It's like you climb this mountain. It takes so long to climb the mountain, and then you can't get to the top, and then you got to start over to climb the mountain again. And it takes so long just to get there, just to get to where they were. They hadn't been there in 4 years,
Yep.
And, they have this. I would say this year was supposed to be was a transition year. We know that. The GM said that. A lot of people thought it would be a step back year. I think they're in a better position this year than they were last year as far as, finances and what to do. There's a lot of decisions to be made. They still have their quarterback in his prime who could very well win the MVP. There's a lot of things to still love about their chances. They'll still be one of the best teams in the AFC, if not the NFL, next year. There's no doubt about that. But it hurts now, no doubt. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people still questioning, if they have the right head coach to get them over the hump. I don't know. I'm not here for that conversation. For this team to be in the position they were, I think speaks volumes to what the coaching did this year, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah. Did you have anyone, by the way, that comes off the top of your head of yesterday could have been their last game in a Bills uniform? Maybe Von Miller comes to mind because of the contract and the dead cap stuff?
Yeah, for sure. I think Von Miller's one. I looked at Matt Milano's contract the other day. I think it would be pretty hefty to move on from him. I'm not advocating they should. I just wonder, because of the injuries, if that's something at his age. But I thought he played so well towards the end of the year that, I think you want him back next year to be your starting will linebacker. We'll see there. Russell Douglas, his contract is up. That'll be something, they'll have to take a look at. And then you have some one-year deals like Mac Hollins, right? He had a great game yesterday. Mac Hollins was the Bills' best receiver, made some nice plays. These are, guys like that you have to think about. Von is probably the first one there, and then
Cooper.
I guess
Cooper
I didn't know this.
Way.
What's that?
Amari Cooper too, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah, Amari Cooper. I would say that, I know there's some guys going into their fourth year that they're going to have to address that if they want to, they don't have to. As far as contracts are concerned, Khalil Shakir, and then James Cook. And I guess I didn't see this. Dalvin Cook tweeted something like $20 million a year after James had his touchdown.
Good luck with that.
I don't know. I'm just saying that. So James was asked about it in the locker room, and he said, he would love to stay in Buffalo. It's out of his hands, but he would obviously love to get a contract extension at some point. But that's not the thing that's right now immediate. But that is something that could happen this offseason.
All right, Sal. Well, we'll see you in a little bit. We'll be listening for the Extra Point Show.
Okay, you got it. Thanks.
Sal Capaccio from his view from Arrowhead. The Bills lose.